Hi, my name is Jeff Ebbeler. I'm an author and an illustrator. I illustrate chapter books, I do a comic series, and I also write and illustrate a lot of picture books. I want to thank the Blue Manatee Bookstore for inviting me to read you a story today. I'm going to show you around my studio, I'm going to read you a story, and then we're going to do a drawing together. I try to keep my studio full of things that will inspire ideas for stories and pictures. Sometimes when I'm having trouble coming up with an idea, I'll take a break and play my guitar or drums. I also have a big collection of picture books from other authors and illustrators that I really like. Sometimes when I'm finished with a book, I frame the paintings and put them in shows in galleries and museums. This is a painting from my book, Haunted House, Haunted Mouse. So today, I'm going to be reading you my story, George the Hero Hound. So, my family used to live near the city, but they always wanted to live out in the country. And so one day, my parents packed us all up and we moved out to the country and we got a farm. And our farm had a big field in front of it where we grew corn, and we also had a bunch of animals like cows and pigs and ducks. And we also had a pony. And we were really excited when we got this pony, and we all wanted to give our pony a name. So instead of picking just one name, we decided that each one of us would give the pony a name, and our pony would just have a really long name. So we ended up naming our pony Rusty Dusty Rover Red George. And that's our pony there, Rusty Dusty Rover Red George, and that's me riding him when I was a little kid. But I was thinking that, an animal like a pony might not be able to get around and help a lot in the same way that maybe a dog could, right? Dogs can help in lots of different ways. So I decided instead of making George a pony, I would make George a dog. So this is the story I'm going to read you today. It's called George the Hero Hound. So the story starts off, George was a good old hound dog. And you can see even right here on the first page, there's a pyramid of cows trying to climb over the fence and get out. Every day, George was up, even before the chickens. That rusty old tractor was always falling apart, and those wily cows were always plotting to get out and feast on the cornfield. And we can see here, the cows are all making their plans to escape. They're thinking maybe they're going to dig a tunnel under the fence, or maybe they're going to make a catapult and shoot some cows over the fence. But George, he's watching them, and even when one of the cows builds a zip line to try and escape, George always stops them. But George didn't mind a whit. As long as he got his afternoon nap, he had a good life for a hound dog. Until the day old Farmer Fritz decided to retire and move to a cabana on the beach, where they didn't allow cows, they didn't allow pigs, and sad to say, they didn't even allow dogs. So you can see Farmer Fritz is talking to George and he's saying, "I'm sorry, boy, I need you to look after the farm." And George was left in the dust. Poor George. But not for long. Nothing could have prepared George for the Gladstone family. They packed up their noisy apartment in the city and bought Fritz Farm. Cows, pigs, George, and all. So you can see there's the dad, and he's saying, "Look, we have a dog. I wonder what his name is." And the little boy is saying, "Can I name him?" And the mom is saying, "Oh, and keep an eye on your sister, because what's the sister doing? She's chasing after this chicken." George could tell right away that the Gladstone family would need a whole heap of help. There'd be no afternoon naps on the porch for a while. So you can see here, the dad is saying, "Could someone please hand me a wrench?" And so George hands him a wrench, and he's saying, "Thanks, I can't figure out why this tractor won't work." And so George hands him a part, and he says, "Oh, this looks important." And then the dad sits up, and the tractor starts, and he's like, "It works!" So then the dad looks around, and he notices that there's this dog that's been helping him. And then the dad says, "Oh, hiya, Pooch, I didn't see you there. You're the same color as all these old parts. Maybe we should call you," what's he going to call him? "Rusty." And then the dad, he leans on the tractor, and the tractor starts to move away, and the tractor goes away, and the dad's chasing after it. He's like, "Stop!" But the tractor doesn't stop. It goes crashing through the fence, and all the cows start to escape, and they're running around, jumping through the cornfield, having a good time. Now George watched as the tractor went clean through the fence, and he wouldn't let those cows get away on his watch. He spent the next couple hours trying to herd those sneaky cows back in their pen where they belong. So George, he's all tuckered out. All he wanted to do was sneak a few winks in the shade and get a cool drink of water. But you can see he's walking through the house where the mom is unpacking all of their stuff, and he's tracking dirt everywhere. And the mom says, "Look at my floor. You are the dustiest dog. We ought to call you Dusty." And so George was swept out of the house in a cloud of dust. George was just padding towards his favorite shady spot when he spied something blue. You guys see this blue ribbon hanging in the tree? Do you remember who was wearing a blue dress at the beginning of the book? The little sister, right? So the big brother Owen comes running over and he says, "I was supposed to be looking after my sister Olive. Can you help me find her, boy?" George took a good sniff of Olive's ribbon. He was a hound dog after all, and off they went. So you can see first they're going to search for Olive through the cornfield. And have you guys ever been to a cornfield where the corn is so tall that you can't even see where you're going when you're walking through it? Maybe if you've been to a corn maze before. And so now they're searching all over the farm. They're searching high and low. And first they start looking in the creek. And you might notice back in the creek there, taking a shower in the waterfall is one of those cows that escaped earlier. And then they're searching through the woods. And you might notice that way in the background there are a couple cows roasting some marshmallows by a tent. And so finally they find that pint-sized rambler, and she's up on a hill. She's having a tea party with that chicken that she's been chasing after. And you might notice way in the background here there's a little hot air balloon with one more cow. So then the older brother Owen, he's looking around and he says, "Wow, good boy. You tracked my sister across every corner of this farm. We ought to call you Rover." And so George had saved the day. And as they trotted back home, George was sure he would finally, definitely get his well-deserved nap. Until the tractor that the dad was chasing goes crashing into the barn. And the mom, who's up on the ladder painting the barn red, drops her bucket of red paint. And the bucket of paint goes falling down until it goes splat right on George's head. And the baby sister Olive says, "Red." And the mom says, "Olive, you just said your first word. Maybe we should call you Red." And so from that day on, George didn't get many afternoon naps, but he didn't mind too much. It turned out he liked herding Olive a whole lot more than he liked herding cows. And since George figured the Gladstones would need some tips on how to run the farm, he vowed to teach them everything he knew, especially how to deal with those crafty cows. He even hatched a plan to drum up some business. So you can see here, do you remember that Farmer Fritz moved out to a cabana on the beach? So here's Farmer Fritz on the beach, and George and Mr. Gladstone are delivering some corn to the friends so they can have a little cookout. And you might even notice way in the background here, sitting on a beach chair eating some corn is one of those cows. And so now, if George could only teach his family one last thing. So do you know what the one last thing is that George couldn't teach his family that he really wanted them to know? His name, right? So there's George, and he's in his doghouse, and you can see all the signs that the family's put up on there with all the different names. It says Rusty, Dusty, Rover, Red, and then way down here on his food bowl, if anyone would have looked, is his real name, George. So when I'm first coming up with ideas for how I want to draw the story, I like to think of all the ways that I could draw the characters. I do lots of little sketches, and I find lots of pictures. If I'm doing a story about dogs, for instance, I like to find lots of pictures of dogs. Then I start doing sketches, kind of like this. This is one of the sketches from the book, and you can see that that is the scene where the cows are all escaping and George is trying to keep them from getting in the cornfield. And so after I've finished the sketches, and I'm happy with how they've all turned out, I take all those sketches and I will put them on some watercolor paper and I will turn them into a painting. Kind of like this. So this is one of the paintings from the book. And you can see that this is how it looks when it's in the book. And this is how it looks when it's a painting. So this is a painting I did. It's acrylic paint on paper. Now this is the painting for the cover of the book. And you might notice there's a whole lot of empty space up here that's just blue sky. And the reason for that is because I have to leave lots of room for where the words are going to go. The title of the story is really big here. So when I did this painting, I left lots of room so that they could add the title to it. It's a nice day out today, so I thought we could go out to my kids' treehouse to do some drawing. So today we are going to be doing a drawing of George. And we're going to start off our drawing by making a line kind of like this right in the middle of your page. A big arch shape, kind of like that. And off of that arch shape, we're going to be drawing a line kind of like this. Okay? And then the next shape we're going to be doing is right about here. We're going to be connecting the two together, kind of like this. Okay? Now what do you think that's going to be? Well, let's wait and see. We're going to be adding two dots right about here. One here and one here. That's going to be his eyes. And we could draw little tiny lines over there, kind of like that. Give his eyes some personality. Now above his eyes, we're going to draw his eyebrows. And that is just going to be a letter M, kind of like this. So one part of the letter M, and then the next part of the letter M. Right like that. So that's going to be George's eyebrows. Now the next step is right down here. Right in the middle, underneath his eyes, we're going to put a little line like that. That's going to be the top of George's smile. And we're going to do another letter M, kind of like this. So we'll go, actually this will be a letter W. Do a letter W like this, starting here, and then we'll connect it up like this. So that's the top of George's smile. Now, the next part is to do the bottom of George's smile. So we're going to do a little line right about here, kind of like that, a little L shape, a little backwards L, and then we're going to do a line like this. So that's going to be George's chin. And then right about here on the side of his eyes, we're going to do a long loopy line, kind of like this. And that is going to be George's ears. So that's the start of it, right? We could do one more thing. We can give George nostrils, and those are kind of fun when you draw a dog's nostrils because they're sort of a curlicue shape. And we can start here and we can draw one curlicue like this for that side of George's nose, and then we can do another curlicue like this for the other nostril. And then we're going to fill in a little bit. We have our black colored pencil, so we're going to add in a little bit of shading right here, so we can start at the bottom of George's ear. And of course then, if you want to, you can take a brown colored pencil or a crayon and you could add some color to George's face. So there we have it. That is how you draw George the Hero Hound. Thank you for drawing with me today. I hope you had a good time reading along with the story and taking a look at my studio.